want to talk about things that I do during winter in the cold, dark months that help me to just like have more energy. This is something I'm still perfecting because when I was a kid, like I loved winter. I didn't feel bad at all. I felt excited and I was just ready to go. Loved winter so much. In fact, I like looked forward to it. There was so much to do. Even after the holidays, we could go outside and play in the snow. It seemed to always be snowing. Snow would start falling December, sometimes January, and it would just be snowing all winter long. So I always had something to look forward to, and us kids would just go outside all day and sled and have snowball fights and just be adventurous all day. And so I just felt naturally energized. Plus I was a kid, and only in the last few years, I would say maybe the last 5 years or so, have I noticed that starting for me in January through March, I feel really tired. And it's not a tiredness that's just like I'm a little sleepy but I can power through. It's a lot of times it can be really just exhausting because I have things that I want to do so badly, like do my art and exercise. And especially the exercise is really hard for me, but like I don't want to put my life on hold, even though that I know that I'm supposed to be resting. I still want to feel good about myself. I still want to exercise and do things that I would do like during the rest of the year, but it can be really hard. From January through March is like my hardest, especially February through March, I would say is the hardest time for me to have energy. So that's why I wanted to make this video because, oh my God, my dog just burped. You just burp. So that's why I wanted to make this video, because I know that like so many people, almost everyone I know at this age struggles with it. I'm only 34, but my friends are all like, yeah, the winter is really rough. And I honestly think that the sun affects us more than we realize. I feel like that less hours of sunlight and it being cold and also just most of the day just overcast has so much of an effect on our mental health than I ever realized. And especially these last 4 years or so, I've noticed that every year after the holidays, it can be difficult mentally for me to stay energized and in a mood, and like a good mood, and feeling happy, like feeling happiness in general. And especially if I was working a job, like a 9-to-5 job, that made it a little bit even harder to do those things for yourself. People who work like those 9-to-5 jobs, or I would say just people who have set hours at their job. A lot of my friends in the winter, and I think me in the winter as well, would have a hard time. Like they would get home from work and they'd be like, I've done everything that I physically have the energy to do today, and like I'm done and I'm just gonna do nothing now. It's dark. What am I gonna do? I just need to take care of myself. And that's completely understandable because there's nothing left in you. I think it would be nice to be able to go through those months, and maybe you didn't go like above and beyond with doing a ton of stuff, but if you struggle with like low mood and low energy, maybe a little depression, maybe a little just like sadness, but for not really any specific reason, it's just that there's no sun and you literally need sun in your life to feel that way. It would be nice to, at the end of winter, to feel like you didn't just put everything on hold and you still did stuff that you enjoyed. And I think just because the weather is this way, I don't think that we need to feel terrible all the time. And another thing I'll say is, like, when I moved here to this island, I thought winter is not going to affect me at all because there's not going to be any snow and it's going to be much warmer, going to be much sunnier. And the truth is, like, I'm still in the northern hemisphere, so it's still technically winter. So the days are still a little shorter. The sun's definitely going down sooner, and it's still pretty gloomy a lot of times. Like yesterday, it was a really sunny day, so I went outside and I just felt so amazing. So I could tell, I was like, okay, yeah, like things are still gonna affect me, even if it's a little bit differently, but it's still winter. The past couple years, I've kind of sensed that I need to change things up and have tried to kind of prepare a little bit for winter. And that's what I want to talk about, is like the things that I've noticed that help me a lot to keep me feeling excited excited. Like, I want to keep that feeling of excitement throughout the year and not just be like excited for a bunch of stuff and then once there's no holidays or events or like social stuff happening, there's still things that I think I can do to be excited about. So if you can relate to what I'm saying, keep watching and I will just tell you the things that I like to do that help me in the winter. Something that gives me a lot of energy is having stuff to look forward to and to work towards. There's a lot of busyness from like October all the way through December, holiday-wise. There's a lot of hype happening and a lot of people look forward to those things. And whether or not I actually looked forward to them, there was a certain energy in the air where people would be out and about. Most people that I know have a lot of family get-togethers. There's festivals and events and a lot of energy in the air. And it's not too cold yet. It's starting to get cold, but it's not too cold. So everyone is outside and wants to be looking at lights and having delicious foods with their friends and their family and all this stuff. And after the end of December, all of that just ends. After like New Year's Eve, it comes to an end and then there's nothing that's like a big festivity for a really long time. That affects how a lot of people live their lives, I think, because after that, people go into hermit mode and it gets really cold, and because of that, no one wants to be outside at all. And even if you go out to take a walk or something, you might run into people, but no one wants to socialize, and it really just affects the whole vibe. So because of that, I think a lot of people feel that now what am I looking forward to? Like I want something to work towards, and if you're like me, you always have projects that you're working towards anyways, but that leads me into this next one, which is always have a project to look forward to. I think this can probably be challenging if people have like set hours at work and it's like, I don't have time to put towards this project, but even if it's something you do on the weekends, even if you only do it for like a few minutes every day, there's just something about having a project, a goal, that even if it's just for fun, you're thinking about it throughout your day and you have that more energy because of that. I think it makes life more exciting when there is something that you're working towards. Usually when I finish a project, I'm just like, okay, what's next? Because it is exciting and you do think about it more than just when you're working on it, and that brings a little bit of something into your day that you are like, I can't wait to get home to do this. It also sparks creativity because it makes you think of new ideas on how to do this project. I'll just talk about some of the stuff that I do. I am an artist, so of course art is going to be my number one type of project that I would do. I do watercolors. Yeah, so it's mostly, for me, it's mostly watercolor, but art is for everyone. A lot of people I know, I feel, say that they can't do art because they're not good, and they put these limitations in their mind about what they can do because they want to be a certain skill level. But art is not just for people who've been doing it for a long time. It's for everyone, and it's a healing thing. It has more than just one purpose. It has so many purposes. And so I would highly recommend, sorry, my throat's a little. I would highly recommend diving into drawing or trying a different art medium that you've never tried before. Just, if you don't know where to start, just pull up someone's YouTube video tutorial. And if you just want to have fun, you can have fun with it. Try not to like put a bunch of weight and stress on what it looks like, because it's really, honestly, I think art is it's so good for your mind. It involves your whole body and your mind and your hands, and you're doing stuff with your body, and I think that's really puts you into a really good headspace. Don't knock it if you're like, I can't do it. Don't knock it. Just give it a try. And of course, there's probably a lot of artists watching this, so you know what to do. Just get it out. Make it really easy for you to start. Like, keep your art supplies out so that when you're low mood and low energy and you don't want to put any effort into it. You can just walk up to your desk and start. That's what I have, like all my watercolors are always just out on the desk, and I rarely ever actually clean it because I feel if I put it away, it's one more step that I have to do. So it's always just there. So try that out. Another thing that I got into over the summer is like macrame. I've done like a macrame wall hanging with my mom, but then I've also done like macrame jewelry with my friend and by myself, and I've just gotten into that as a hobby for purely just myself to make jewelry. And I do things with it that is very intentional and witchy. Like I weave intentions into the knots and stuff. If you've never done any kind of knot or macrame stuff before, it's worth a shot if you've never done it. It's fun. It's actually extremely relaxing and meditative. Puts me in a really calm mood whenever I do it. I think the cool thing about that too is it's like pattern that you follow and you like really can't mess it up. You're tying a knot, like you can mess the knot up, but then you just untie it and then you just get it right eventually. So even if you think like I can't do that, just don't worry about it. Again, YouTube is your best friend when it comes to that. Look up patterns. I've looked up patterns and stuff online to see what I could do. But I like to make jewelry, and I want to make a lot more too in the future once I get supplies and stuff. I think it would be fun to make plant hangers and stuff. But again, I think macrame is a good low effort winter thing to do. And it also puts you in an excited mood for spring because you can craft plant hangers and get everything ready to start planting things, and it reminds you that spring is coming. Something else I've gotten into, and this is still projects, is I downloaded an app called Picture This, and there's many different apps that you can download that are free that you can identify plants. I think there's one called iHerbalist or something, correct me if I'm wrong. And I go outside and take pictures of plants, and then it'll identify exactly what the plant is, and it'll tell me everything about it. Like, is the plant healthy? Where does it come from? How to take care of it? What season it grows? I find that so fascinating. I just think it's so cool that you can go anywhere in the world and you can be in an urban setting as well. Like, there's plants everywhere. Even if you live in a city, like look on the sidewalks, there's gonna be some plants that you can find. I will say it's harder in the winter, obviously, but there still are things like outside that you could identify, like a lot of the winter plants that stay alive. Like there's a lot of pine. Just try to go on a hunt to see what you can find and what plants are still alive that you can take pictures of and identify. I know there's like winterberry. I've identified a lot of that before during the winter. There's like winterberry and like juniper. Just have fun with that. And if you're an artist, after you identify it, you can paint it if you want to. You can like export a picture where it'll show like the identification. You can make a little plant library of all the plants you've identified, which it does on the app, but then you could print them off and categorize them. That could be a whole project that you could do, that you could start on in the winter. I cannot recommend that enough. And if you're also into bugs, which normally I don't like bugs, but lately I've gotten more into bugs because it's just that I don't want bugs to be like on me when I don't expect it. And certain bugs I'm like, oh, I don't know. But if you are interested in bugs, there's one called, hold on, let me see what it's called. It's called Picture Insect. So it's another extension of Picture This. Oh wait, hold on. So also an ad comes up, you just click out of that, and yeah, here's what it looks like. I can go to like my bugs and show you what I have, my collection. I had this little spider, it's like a red spider in my house, and I identified that is what it said it was. And it has other pictures other people have taken, and you can see that. Highly recommend. There are bugs in the winter. Moths, spiders. Yeah, bugs. There's gonna be a lot less bugs, but there are still bugs and figuring out what they are, I think is really fun. And then again, paint them, identify them, have a little catalog of all the bugs. Just live like Animal Crossing. If you want a project, just live your life like Animal Crossing and collect knowledge. It started to rain. Ooh, that's a loud rain. Okay, hopefully you can still hear me even though this rain is wild in right now. So I also recently, I got this plant thing that I found in the city when Chris and I traveled to Kagoshima recently, and it was this little 500 yen gashapon thing, and inside of it is a little plant that has maple seeds in a little pot, and I really want to plant it, but I was going to include that. I'm going to include that in this video, but the thing is it needs to be stratified, which means it needs to be in the cold for 2-3 months before I can actually plant it. Anyways, I'll show you a little bit of that, but I have to soak it in some like water and for 24 hours and then put it in the fridge for like a few months and then hope that it sprouts. But that's one other thing I was going to include in this is just little things like that if you can find a plant that you can take care of, that is also really helpful for me to bring a little sunshine into the day. Leading into the next one, I just made a drink. It's Earl Grey, but I also put chai, masala chai in it. So it's like an Earl chai, and it's actually really good. Just experiment with drinks. That's what my next one is a ritual with drinks. Every day I have a drink, a hot beverage. I don't even think that I thought about it at first as a ritual because it's just something I did every day innately. And then I realized, yeah, this is a ritual, and it is really nice to have something that tastes delicious. So make yourself a hot beverage, and while you're drinking that, do something fun or chill, or look outside at the crazy weather that's happening. You can't see it, or do nothing but just enjoy. This one's really simple. I think it's just something that's easy to do that doesn't take too much effort, but for me I get a lot of dopamine out of having a delicious coffee or tea beverage. And if you're like that, I would say get some of the powdered chai and mix it with different teas, or mix like different herbs together with different teas. Like for me, I have loose leaf lavender and I just mix that in with my Earl Grey, and you can mix it with any other type of tea. It goes really nicely with like chamomile. Experiment, buy a bunch of different loose leaf teas and loose leaf herbs and make your own blends, and experiment with like your own custom tea blends. I can't recommend that enough. Get like a tea strainer or a kettle, and something that makes it easy for you to put all the herbs in together and that it's just easy to make a drink. But yeah, have fun with that, and then notice how your energy levels are with different types of tea. Oh, another thing, recently I saw on TikTok somebody mix like hot chocolate with Earl Grey, and I was like, I'm trying that, and it was so good. So hot chocolate and Earl Grey, try that. It's really good. I struggle with this one, except summer is what helps me. By summer, I mean my dog, and that is going on walks. I'm a person who loves walking throughout the entire year, and then when winter hits, it becomes really hard for me to really love walking outside. Like I enjoy the act of it, but being out in the cold can be so miserable to just be in the wind, in the cold, in the whatever, slushy, gross, because it's not beautiful. Honestly, a lot of winter is not beautiful, and I guess I'm superficial because I like to look at beautiful nature. There is beauty to be found in like the dead stuff too, but Summer, my dog, is my #1 helper and motivator when it comes to getting outside and getting enough steps. And even with her, sometimes I just still don't get enough steps. I still could be getting more, but she needs to be out there, and so I'm out there with her. In the winter, getting outside is so important, I think, because it's like the vitamin D. The vitamin D comes from the sun, and the sun is outside, and so if you go outside, get a little bit of that vitamin D, and you can actually feel it. Like I think I can feel a difference when I come back. So just dress up in layers, like make sure that you have enough layers so that when you walk outside, you don't immediately want to run back in. Dress with as many clothes as necessary to get yourself outside. You know, when some people want to get motivated to exercise, they get exercise clothing that inspires them and makes them feel really good, and they're excited to put it on. So maybe something like that with winter. Maybe there's cute winter coat that you can wear, or like something that's like, I just want to put all that awesome stuff on. Maybe it's like badass. Maybe you just want to feel badass in a, I'm trying to think of a good winter badass look. It's failing me. I'm sure there is something like that where it's like, I just want to put that on and feel like a freaking badass. Do that if you gotta do it to get outside. And even today, I'm like, I haven't got outside nearly enough, but it's been like rainy and crazy windy. The weather on this island's can be pretty unpredictable, but it's typically really rainy and fairly cold and windy and overcast in the winter. For me, I have a hood, like I have a coat that I put a hood up and try to just like, I try to protect my hair from the wind a little bit at least, but man, the nature prevails when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's gonna do what it's gonna do. And maybe if you have a friend that you can walk with, I think having a friend to walk with would be the number one motivation for me. If I didn't have a dog, I would say, and even my friends would be like, can we just hang out inside? That's a good one though too, like go over to your friend's house and hang out with them inside if you're not gonna walk, but because that will boost your mood and your energy for sure. If you can walk together, go to get a hot beverage and go on a walk through the park. I do feel like part of the problem is we're always stuck inside during these cold months with the excuse that it's just awful out there, but then not going out there makes us not feel good. So just soak up a little sunshine. The plant and bug identification I was talking about, that is a good one to get you outside. Yeah, go on a little nature walk and identify some plants and bugs. When it is snowing, I personally find it more fun to go outside because at least there's not a bunch of dead, like gross stuff, dead stuff to look at. It's actually really beautiful. And so when it does snow, I'm like, we're going outside. I enjoy a good snow walk. Watching my dog play in the snow. When we were in the States, that's what we would do. We would walk to the grocery store in the snow, and just, it's really whimsical. If you can grow to appreciate how whimsical snow is when you don't have to drive in it, and when you can just be a kid again and just experience it like that, it's very whimsical. It's so, and in the light it shimmers and there's glittery texture to it. It's so pretty. If it's not snowing and it just looks gross, you just gotta get out there. Yeah, it's always so muddy too. Like everything is just goes from being so green and everything overgrown to just like brown. I'm back and I have this memory foam pillow to get me through. Emotional support pillow. One last thing too with the walks is that although everything is, depending on where you are, everything's dead right now and can look very ugly, but if you can find, there's always something to appreciate with the way that it looks in nature. Try to find that wherever you are. You might be somewhere where everything is completely gone almost. There's no grass or green or anything, but just try to see what you can find that you can appreciate that actually is nice looking or cool looking or spooky even. Something interesting. I think that would be helpful. There's always something out there that makes it a little bit, like even if it's just one thing you find, make it a little bit better. Change the perspective a little bit. Oh, another thing too, since there's not a lot of like wildlife and plants and animals right now because they're all hibernating, usually there's still birds, so that's something I would do. I hear, obviously, because there's tons, but in the States as well, there was a tree right in front of my apartment, so there was like blue jays and cardinals and robins all throughout the winter, and I enjoyed that. At the very least, there was a little something there I could look through the window and see throughout the day. Just little things like that. Try to capture if you can. This is something that I've been doing for over a year now, consistently, and I still have times where I will have a really busy time and I won't do it for a week or two, but it's usually every day or every other day I do yoga. And when I first started, I was just doing it because I never stretched, so I usually just hate stretching because it was boring, so I just wouldn't do it, and I would be stiff all the time. I started doing yoga, I just found it to be more fun. It was an excuse for me to stretch, but actually I enjoyed doing it, so that's why I've kept doing it. I first just wanted it to have the physical benefits of feeling better and like feeling more flexible. I didn't really expect it to be that much more than that, but it really has helped me a lot. Like, I always go back to it no matter what I'm feeling, and I feel so much better afterwards. One thing that like yoga does for me is it connects my mind and my body, and so I'm not really thinking, I'm just moving. And there's not a lot of things I feel like that we do that actually requires you to just trust your movement of your body without thinking about it and thinking, what are you gonna do next? Your brain and your body are talking to each other. You don't really have the time to have a lot of mental chatter when you are doing something like that. Without you trying to, it clears your mind because you have to focus all your energy into every move that you're doing. It requires a lot of mental energy to just do something like standing on one leg and like moving your body forward and moving your keeping yourself up without falling in certain ways. It is actually really hard, and it quiets your mind when you do that. So there's a lot of other things that you could probably do that are similar. It's really helped me to stay focused in the moment with that particular exercise, and it's the only thing I've actually for a long period of time have always come back to and haven't strayed away for months and months at a time. I've been doing it for over a year now, and I think it's because it's not intimidating either. I don't feel like it's a drag because it's not something that I know that I'm gonna be super sore or that's gonna it's challenging, but just in a different way. And you can decide if you want to do a short one. I find the most benefit from yoga when I do a practice and I've found that I am not the entire time. I was only focusing on those moves in my body, and it's so, especially if you're like me, there's not really a lot of times throughout the day where you're not thinking about anything else, it's just that one thing. Over time, I think that has really good benefits because it also, you focus on your breath when you do yoga. You have to, it's part of the movement. So by doing that in the practice, on the mat throughout the rest of the day, I notice when things don't feel good inside. Before, it was harder to notice what part of my body was not feeling good and why and what was it doing and all this stuff. But with yoga, it really puts that focus on your body. And then after you're done, body awareness about, whoa, I was just feeling great and now I'm all of a sudden feeling not good. And then it helps you to slow down and to focus on that. So there's other exercises too that have that benefit, I think, but anything that, exercise usually requires body-mind connection, but something that's more free-flowing, that you can change up the move in the middle, like dancing and yoga. Usually they say to do these moves, but you can stray from that and do what feels better for you in the moment. And that's what I like about it too. There's a lot of freedom. If with other exercises, it's just do 10 of these, do 10 of those, and then that's what you're doing, which is good for its benefit. But I think what I like about the yoga is a lot of the stuff that I watch that I do on YouTube is they will say, you can do this move, or they'll give me 3 other moves, or they'll be or just whatever you want to right now. And that's part of it is trusting your intuition and trusting your body, listening to your body about what feels good. I think anything more expressive like dance, maybe some kind of martial arts be cool too. Before doing yoga, I never thought about my breath at all. It just was happening. And if you're uncomfortable with that, I think that this will make you more comfortable with it too. To slow down the breath, and there's so many different ways of breathing too that you can practice that you get different benefits from. But I highly recommend. And there's one more thing that is something that I have noticed over the past year that has been helpful for me, and that is during these times where you maybe are not doing as much as you would be during the summertime, or you're struggling to keep the energy levels, is to not shame yourself. For me, this goes like throughout the year. This is a practice that I've also cultivated for my mental health, and that is when I am like not performing the way that I want to in any way. Could be in so many different ways, like not doing as much work as I want to, not exercising enough, just being in a certain way, the certain way that I want to be. I started noticing my thought patterns of beating myself up, and I think that's really hard to spot when it's an ingrained in your mind that it's happening in the background and you don't notice. But if you can notice those moments when you actually notice you said something mean to yourself, like you were like, wow, you've done nothing today, or wow, you should have done so much better because of this, or wow, you could have done better. Maybe you don't see that as like beating yourself up, but there's a lot of moments where people do that, and I do that too sometimes, where I think that when you start noticing that you have this dialogue in your head that does say kind of mean things, it's easier to shut it down. And it takes a lot of practice and a lot of time of over and over just saying like, no, like you can't really control that you have that thought necessarily, but you can just choose to be like, no, I'm doing the best I can today. Yeah, so I have a rule for myself if I ever catch like myself being like, wow, I'm so terrible at this or that, or I should have done better, or why can't I just do this? I mean, let's be honest, I'm sure everyone has those thoughts, but I shut it down. For me, it's not helpful to have those. Telling yourself that that's not true and just saying like, no, I am doing my best. No, I am gonna do awesome and I can do better. And I am capable. And just tell yourself that, and over, the more you do that, the easier it becomes to like, you actually don't have that voice as much. To sum that up, I would say it's gentleness with yourself. For me, it's just a rule that I am not allowed to self-shame. And so that's as simple as it is for me. If there's anything you can do similar, maybe that would be helpful if you notice that you have that problem as well. Maybe just a simple rule is like, I'm not allowed to self-shame. So when you notice it, shut it down, because that will, the quickest way to like, for me to drop my mood is to get into feeling like ashamed, or like saying mean things to myself, or negative self-talk easily turns my mood totally terrible. So if you have that issue, that's how I've dealt with it before, I recommend that. I think it's a hard one for people to do, because I think a lot of people are really hard on themselves and they don't realize it. It does feel good once you stop. It definitely helps with my mental health. That's all I have in me. I hope that something I brought up was something that was helpful to you, or just new ideas on how you can keep some energy during these months and to stay inspired and actually excited, and not just like waiting for the warmer weather and for spring. But comment below, let me know your ideas, because I would like to know what you guys do, and list a bunch of activities for people to do that struggle with this too. And we'll see you later.